I'm Deanna.
And I'm Wendy.
And this is Left to Watch,
where we look at leftist YouTube and analyze their videos and all the drama going on around him. So, today we're going to talk about, in our first episode, we're going to talk about some of the fallout from the Angie Speaks harassment scandal. We're going to talk about Sarah Zed's new video, Social Clout as Currency, and we're also probably going to talk about a few pop culture things, aren't we?
Yes. Right now, within the pop culture sphere, there's a ton of dark-sided stuff going on right now, especially within Black History Month. I want a do-over for Black History Month. I want the whole thing tarnished and done with. Like, if we have to move Black History Month to June, then we need to do it, because
this one has kind of sucked.
It's been dark-sided. It's so much dark-sidedness, from blackface to proceeding to the still continuation of the R. Kelly scandal to Jussie Smollett now. I'm even gonna put in Angie Speaks and what she's been dealing with. It's been a lot.
It's been a lot, and I say this as a white person, even I've noticed, and my white ass is usually pretty ignorant about things like this, but even I've been, instead of seeing, the stuff that I'm used to seeing, some really great Black excellence, stuff like that, I've been seeing, people treating the Jussie Smollett thing in particular like the only thing that matters, and just all sorts of bullshit.
And even the politicians currently, the Democratic Party of Virginia, it has come out that some of them have been at parties where they have done blackface.
I know, right? Or they try to backpedal from that and claim, no, I only did blackface for my Michael Jackson costume in the 80s.
Shut up!
And I'm from Virginia, by the way, so this is really embarrassing for me.
It goes back to the whole thing that Malcolm X said about when it comes to Democrats in the Black vote and how they don't really care about us. They just use us as leverage so we can go ahead
and the problem with that is that, since we have this shitty white-dominated, white supremacist two-party system, the alternative is nothing. Really, because the Republicans are even worse. So it's what are we gonna do?
Yeah, the Democrats have a history of using Black people and people of color's fear of racism to deter them from not voting for Democrats at all. It's a very, very, let's say, just abusive relationship that we have with them in general. I can go into
yeah, I feel like there's a lot of it's sort of the way. I think it's sort of like how Republicans use, white fears of, oh, Black people are taking over and stuff like that. I don't think it's a coincidence that hate groups jumped after Obama was elected, and then after Obama we got, the most openly racist president that, we've ever could have gotten.
Yeah,
because I feel like Republicans stoke white
because
fears
Trump,
that,
gives a lot of, dog whistles. Especially with back then in 2016 when he said they are rapists. It goes into the whole white fear of people of color, specifically Black people.
To Kill a Mockingbird fear.
Yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird. The whole rape of the white women kind of scares them into whatever their views are of being racist. That's all I can say. I can't word it.
And the funny thing is that, I feel like Black women are some of, the most vulnerable people. The real vulnerable people in our society, and, American society, are actually Black women.
Yeah, because we're seen more as objects in that we've been, very, very hyper-sexualized from the get-go to slavery. You know, the reason why African Americans tend to have around a quarter amount of European DNA within them
because of rape.
It's because of rape. Yeah, it's because of rape, in that slave masters were even encouraged to rape Black women to gain more slaves for the plantation, because again it cost less, and they did it specifically just because raping your white wife was seen as looked down upon, and so they turned to the Black women who, again, they over-sexualized them and called them temptresses, and so they could get away with saying, oh, this black woman tempted me. And even then, it's like, they openly say that, hey, these slave masters said openly, hey, this black woman is my mistress, and it was seen as like a status symbol to have even more of these black mistresses and more of the mulatto biracial children as well. It's a whole history I can get into. This was from the Bell Hooks.
Like, there's a lot of history behind that. The most famous case is probably Thomas Jefferson. And, you know, like, I don't think eugenics was actually formalized as a belief system back then, but it was also believed that they were somehow making their slaves smarter by raping them because they, you know, because they considered black people subhuman. They would rape they'd rape their, and, you know, being lighter skinned, you were more likely to work in the house and stuff like that.
That was, like, it's still kind of iffy on, the whole, light-skinned house, dark-skinned field because of the way that it was set up. So if you think of the whole black mammy stereotype or the aunt mammy stereotype, she tended to work in the house, and her character was like dark-skinned and heavier set weight, and her shoes were like unfitting. Like they made her to look like a cow in like a certain way, and like asexual, like an asexual being. That was one of the caricatures in one of Bell Hooks' books. Sorry, I was just going into it, but
no, it's totally understandable. Like, we can talk about this stuff because I feel like we are going to talk a lot about leftist YouTubers, but as even leftist YouTubers have admitted, it's been a little bit of a country club.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember back to what Allison S. from Twitter said. Like, she talked about how it was very good practice to have all these leftist YouTubers to come together and educate people. However, it could easily turn into an e-celeb landscape where people form, again, those parasocial relationships and the whole deal of wanting to gain social capital. So the viewers see them as a figure of authority, when even like these people tend to be majority anarchists, so they don't want people to see them as a figure of authority, and they want them to have open and like balanced conversations with them. But the way everything is, these viewers tend to see them as like they admire them, but also on the flip side, they see them as someone they should be listening to, not in a way to like be educated, but in a way because they are seen as they're seen as having higher social capital, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. And it has become a clout game, and I think, and so, you know, this all comes together. Like, speaking of leftist YouTubers and the treatment of black women, we should probably go over the Angie Speaks thing a little bit.
Okay, so yeah, the Angie Speaks thing, it centers back to the Angie timeline when she reviewed Dr. Bones, who was an egoist. At the time, she didn't know all the horrendous things he did. And after it came to light that he was sexually or just assaulting or abusing this person, she got targeted for supporting him.
We should probably explain. Dr. Bones was like a leftist podcaster, I believe, who was getting a lot of clout, and he used that clout basically to take sexual advantage of a bunch of some women, and she didn't know about that at the time.
Yeah, she didn't know, and because of that, because she was associated with him, like she unknowingly, she did not know that he did all of those horrendous things, but because she was associated with him during that live stream, she got targeted. And because she got targeted, she, in retaliation and in response, she made that whole cancel culture video, which again brought to light about how we view social capital. It's very insightful, and it's cool that it was made out of like retaliation in response to like the criticism she was, like the undeserved criticism that she was getting. Let me see.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's very complicated. Like, he was in the part of the Conjure House blog, which I'm not too familiar with, but it's basically, she interesting because they've got some religious beliefs in common, don't they?
Oh yeah, they're both pagan, but like, I don't want to say like pagan because I don't know specifically if Dr. Bones is pagan, but they are in the same circle of like witchcraft and changing reality so that it fits them, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then later on, there was this incident still has not been entirely cleared up, so we're not going to use the real names of the people. But there was a case where there were cross accusations of sexual assault between these two people. One of these people was a mod on Peter Coffin's chat logs during his streams. And because of that, when all this stuff came out, he refused to make a comment or condemn whoever it was at first because he didn't know the full extent of the situation. Angie Speaks then did a video with Peter Coffin, and for that she got targeted harassment. It was called a rape apologist. Was nearly doxxed. Had her PayPal hacked into. Was called a rape apologist and a crypto-fascist. Now keep in mind, people at first were just mad at Peter Coffin for having this person as a mod, and he eventually removed them. And it took him a while to do that, which wasn't great, but it was a thing that happened. And keep in mind, he did a video where he had a lot of people doing voiceover work, including Angie Speaks, but not just Angie Speaks. But it was Angie Speaks and Angie Speaks alone who got this level of harassment. It was even worse than what Peter Coffin himself got. And I say this as somebody who is now officially a mod on Peter Coffin's chat. He's a good guy, but he refused to make a judgment on this, and Angie Speaks, who doesn't know any of the people involved, refused to make a judgment on this situation. So because of that, she got dragged through the mud for, being a collaborator and being a so-called rape apologist, which she obviously is not. So that's what happened there. And she got accused of all sorts of really, really horrible things. On one of my Tumblr posts about the subject, someone claimed, well, she sent her followers to attack the trans Romani sexual assault victim. I'm like, where? Where did she do that? And guess what? They had no reply. Like, show it to me. Complete bullshit.
It's like, why? Like, I don't understand why they would go ahead and just start even more chaos, like, from this, and just make the water even more muddy and unclear just for the fun of it, or just for the social clout. Like, I don't know. And yeah, to call someone a rape apologist just because, like, she was associated with someone like that, she didn't even know the situation is, like, the issue is, like, she didn't even know the whole issue. So, like, how could she be called a rape apologist if she didn't even know what was going on? She was like, she didn't mean to be dragged into, like, she didn't deserve to be dragged into this either. And again, H-Bomber Guy and Philosophy Tube have been associated with Peter Coffin as well, and
they've done way more collaborations even.
Yeah, they've done more collaborations with Peter Coffin than Angie Speaks have. Like, literally, one of Philosophy Tube's biggest videos, Should I Watch the News, has Peter Coffin in the fucking thumbnail. Nobody came for him. I wonder why. Yeah, it's...
He was in that video, too! That's the best.
Yeah, and that's... Yeah.
And by best, I mean...
Yeah, it's... Like, it's interesting, like, because... Again, I know it's because Angie is such an easy target, and because of the fact that she's a woman and black, she's held to, like, a higher standard to these... And
she's also got a smaller audience, too. That, we probably should explain that, otherwise there are going to be people who are going, oh, you're forgetting that she has a smaller audience, that you're just claiming everything's about sexism and racism. And I'm going to claim that, like, sexism, racism is a huge part of this, but yes, we are going to acknowledge that the fact that she has a much smaller audience than Philosophy Tube and H-Bomber Guy definitely played a part, so she was more vulnerable to this kind of attack. If somebody had come for Philosophy Tube like they came for Angie, there'd have been a bloodbath. But at the same time, I don't think that was the guiding... I don't think that was the entire long and short of it. Like, we cannot pretend that the fact that she's a black woman didn't have something to do with the way she was judged, in contrast to how the white men around her were judged.
I mean, again, I could go back into the whole history of, like, black women, like, because black women are seen as, again, like, we're seen more as objects, and back then we were seen as someone who is unfit to marry, and to make that seem true, there were caricatures created, specifically the Sapphire. And so the Sapphire caricature...
I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, so...
I'm not familiar with that one.
The Sapphire caricature, like, it's in Bell Hooks' A9 Woman. Like, I really, really recommend it to you when it talks about black feminism in general. But the Black Sapphire is the black woman who tends to be, like, very, very loud and very naggy. And it was created to, in general, make it seem like, again, black women weren't fit for marriage because they would be depicted as evil in a certain way. Okay, I found it. It said the Sapphire image of, this is from Bell Hooks' A9 Woman. I'm citing it, guys, just so you know I'm not plagiarizing. The Sapphire image of a black woman, she is depicted as iron-willed, effectual, treacherous towards and contemptible of black men. The latter being portrayed as simpering, ineffectual whipping boys. The latter I'm talking about is the black man. So certainly most of us have encountered domineering black females, and white ones too. Many of them have been unlucky in life and seek a bitter haven from their disappointments and fantastical self-sufficiency. The Sapphire image was popularized by radio and television show in which Sapphire is the nagging, shrewish wife of Kingfish. As the title indicates, the show is focused on the black male characters. Sapphire's shrewish personality and was used primarily to create sympathy in the viewers. It was to create sympathy for the black man towards the viewers, because of the black nagging woman was, again, being
that sounds very familiar.
Being matriarchal. The Sapphire identity has been projected onto any black woman who overtly expresses bitterness, anger, and rage about her lot. Consequently, black women repress these feelings of fear of being regarded as shrewish sapphires. Or they embrace
That sounds very familiar.
Or they embrace the Sapphire identity as a reaction to the harsh treatment of black women in society. The evilness of a given black woman may merely be the facade she presents to a sexist, racist world that she realizes would only exploit her if she were to appear vulnerable. So that's the whole Sapphire. And also, the Sapphire was also created, again, it also helped with making white women seem more fragile. And it also which is fucking hilarious. Yeah, it was also propped up to make black women even for black men to hate black women more. And yeah, that's one of the
which is really hilarious, because there are shrew archetypes and stereotypes about, like, white women too. So it just I think that does go to prove, like, I get that it's got an extra dose of racism because there's the racial politique, I guess, dynamic to it. But I think that, like, that whole thing makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that there's an extra added political consequence, I think, for black women when these stereotypes are applied to them.
Yeah, it goes back to also the whole there's a black female matriarchy myth, in that black women tend to be the matriarch of the race, when in reality that is not true, because if you've seen the racism that a lot of us have faced, yeah. It's not so, especially with the amount of rape that, again, we tend to receive. And you can even go to
well, if you read studies, if you read studies, they show. I think it shows that, like, in rape cases, when a convicted rapist is convicted of raping a black woman, he's likely to get a lesser sentence than if he's convicted of raping a white woman.
Yeah, it's because black women. They painted black women as being more sexual than white women. Mm-hmm. Like, again, white men were encouraged to, like, have sex with black women. Yeah, have sex with them all you want. Have sex with them all you want. You can do whatever you want with them, but remember, they're not marriage material, because white women are viewed as that.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. There's that, like, well, I mean, that's the thing I think that also is applied to black people in general. Like, like, I'm gonna say this term and I hate saying it. It, like, tastes bad in my mouth to say it, but it's so common, I feel like. And I want people to stop saying this, but I've heard it a lot. And here I'm gonna say it. Ready? Jungle fever.
I mean, yeah.
That term, like, it's disgusting. And also it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I mean, yeah, there's a reason.
It's...
Like, besides why the whole racist caricatures of black women were put in place, white women tend to not white men, black women tend to not choose to not date white men because they would get all the brunt of that jungle fever nonsense. Like, black men, not so much, because again, there's like that.
It's considered more of a dominance thing too, isn't it?
Like, yeah, it's a like, again, I'm going back to like Bell Hooks' book in AI Women. She said that as history went on, white men became to be kind of more okay with black men dating white women because, again, they were both seen as lesser than them, and even during the whole interracial laws of the 70s, it was still centered around a black man, and it was centered around black men,
a man,
and white women.
It's a dominance.
But when, sorry, like, we're getting off on a tangent, but I'm still going back on, but because when a white man marries a black woman, the black woman and her children of the white man get his title, and they take pretty much everything from him. And to them, that's seen as being erased from existence. So
yeah, it's probably...
That's why. Okay,
Racism is so much fun, isn't it?
I found the other one. I found the other Bell Hooks quote. It said, "Those men who accepted the myth that black women are matriarchs did regard black females as a threat to their persona. It's not at all peculiar to black men. Most men in patriarchal society fear and resent women who do not assume traditional passive roles." So this also goes back to the view of the Sapphire. So by shifting the responsibility for unemployment of black men onto black women and away from themselves, white racist oppressors were able to establish a bond of solidarity with black men based mutual sexism. And white men preyed upon the sexist feeling impressed upon black male psyche from birth to socialize black men so that they would regard not all women, but specifically black women, as enemies of their masculinity. That's what I wanted to get to.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, white women are just so delicate, right?
It didn't used to be like, it didn't used to be kind of like that. This was before slavery, in that white women were seen as sinners in their sexuality, or like the sins of Eve were placed on the white women, and so they were automatically viewed as evil because of all the things that Eve did. And so whatever bad thing happened to a woman, it was because you have to make up for Eve. But when slavery came into place around that same time, the whole fetishization and admiration of the Virgin Mary kind of aesthetic kind of came through.
Yeah. Well, there was this thing, you can find it in a lot of art, where they thought vaginas were so disgusting that the devil was afraid of them. That's how gross vaginas were. It was considered this horrible thing you just had to put up with to continue the species. So there's like these pictures, there's these like images of like women scaring off the devil by lifting their skirts. I'm not making that up. That's a thing.
Yeah, back then it was wild, but as the aesthetic for like the pure Virgin Mary came through, that image was placed onto white women, while the sins of Eve and the temptress of, let's say, Delilah, were pushed all on black.
Yeah, Delilah's
and even with that, so the purity of the Virgin Mary causes white women to be sexually repressed, while the sins of Eve and the evil black women being overly sexualized, that was placed on them of being overly sexual. So in both ways, it was both seen to control women in their sexuality.
Well, yeah, it's always been about that. Like, black women need to be dominated, and white women needed to be, put on a weird pedestal once the racial dynamics came in, I feel like. I feel like the archetype of the Southern belle plays into that like really well. Like you never saw like black women being treated as Southern belles because of everything we just talked about.
Yeah, going back to slavery, black women were forced to do both the feminine and masculine jobs. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it goes with that.
Well, it's part of the dehumanization, yeah.
But black men did not get those feminine jobs. It was only the black women to reinforce like the traditional roles. And the Southern belle, going back to the Virgin Mary, it kind of goes into that like archetype as well. And that's a whole history.
Yeah, it's a whole history, and I feel like, and I wonder how much of that translates into the consciousness. Like, I actually asked some like what black women I know who are from like the UK, like, what do you guys go by? Are you guys like Anglo-African? Like, what's the equivalent of African American in England? They didn't. So they just say like Black English or Black Scottish or Black Irish. And I'm wondering like if you're like Black English, like how does that play into the whole thing? Like, because clearly Angie speaks to an international audience.
Yeah.
And
I mean
and she's also an open witch too.
Yeah, that's even like worse because of the whole stereotype of, again, the black witch. Because again, it goes back to women being evil, and the whole evil woman being placed on the black women, and so again, witchcraft being seen as evil.
I was
double whammy.
asking the other day about Tituba. Yeah, well, like I was asking the other day about Tituba because the Salem witch trials, like the Jacobean witch trials, were happening all over Europe. And the Salem witch trials, in a way, were a extension of that, but they were also, like, particularly racist because the origin of the witchcraft among all these white women in the Massachusetts colonies at the time, or the New England colonies at the time, was placed on being introduced to the devil and devil worship and witchcraft by a slave named Tituba. And to this day, like, we don't know, she might not have been black.
Yeah.
It's, like, mostly been assumed that she's been black, but it turns out she might have actually been Native American.
Yeah.
We literally aren't sure. That's how much of that has been erased. So I feel like that's a relevant point to bring up too. Like,
yeah,
I think there's like an element of religious bigotry going on here too that is tied in with how Angie Speaks was treated.
Yeah, it still plays into like the same thing of like the witch of color getting the brunt force of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a whole history of why people see black women as that, and they get again the brunt force of negativity.
And I feel like people are like replacing all of the history of black women on Angie Speaks, and I feel like maybe that's probably problematic. That if it sounds like we're doing that, we're not trying to do that. But
yeah, she's not the spokesperson of black women. Yeah.
No, she's not. No, Bell Hooks is. No.
Bell Hooks, like, we turned against Bell Hooks the moment she started criticizing Beyonce. And she did.
I'm sorry, but Beyonce is America, okay? She's America.
I have to find that again of how like she talked about lemonade or whatever, and
oh no,
yeah, and talking about Beyonce in general. Bell Hooks is fun, like she's fun, like and how she plays into like the whole sexualization of the black women and all that other stuff. Again, I still recommend Eight Eye Woman, like, from her earlier works because it was good. All of those quotes I did was from Eight Eye Woman.
Actually, Amazon has a triple, like a bundle that they're, oh wait, this is offered as more than it would cost. This is stupid. Because, yeah, it's on Amazon, but they were partnering it together with Sister Outside by Audre Lorde and Angela Davis's Women, Race, and Class, which you gotta read your Angela Davis for your social studies.
Don't buy from Amazon. Go to the PDFs. Become a communist today. Yeah. Don't buy from capitalist Amazon.
Okay, so that's what Angie Speaks would say, and I feel like Angie Speaks had to go off social media. She had to go off social media for a while, and I don't blame her for a while.
Yeah, because again, she has a history of anxiety and depression, so yeah, I would understand.
Exactly, especially when you're being called a rape ball. She's a sexual assault survivor too, and I think like that's a relevant thing to bring up. Like all this stuff piled on her, all because she did a collaboration for a video, and she actually called out a few points where people will use their minority status. Like she pointed out that sometimes people will use minority status as a clout game in order to speak over others, and I think it's important to bring that up too.
Yeah. Like I need to find that tweet again that from a person I followed called Abazilla, and she made a tweet about when people start ranting about things that they don't really care about, and to seem as though they care about it to get like social capital, and then they bow and scene. Sorry. I need to find that.
No, go for it.
Like I need to find it, like because it was just a picture. It was like because they were acting like they cared about this certain thing just to get like social capital. Sorry. You could go.
No, I understand. No, it's fine. No, go for it. No, like for instance, like here's the thing. Like sometimes though, you get caught up in the rant. I think it's important to notice, like that sometimes you do get caught up in the fury of things too. And it's something you're trying to get social capital, but like you feel angry because like you get kind of caught up in the fury over it. Like I really, really hated the Kendall Jenner Pepsi commercial, and what I really like, and the reason I hated it for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons I really hated it was it reminded me of the protests that happened in Louisiana. And I knew about this because like I lived in Louisiana for a time, and there was this woman there who had walked up to police officers at a Black Lives Matter protest and just stood in front of them and held out her hands. And the Kendall Jenner thing was clearly like sort of a takeoff on that, except it was a white woman doing it and offering a Pepsi.
Yes, because social justice is quote unquote trendy right now, so what Pepsi...
Join the conversation.
Yeah. So what Pepsi did was a failure. However, these companies are learning specifically how to deal with the trend of social justice, and so
I think Nike did it brilliantly. Like, speaking of which, like, Bomber Guy just released a video on woke brands, and he pointed out, like, what Nike did was actually brilliant.
Yeah. Again, the companies are learning how to position this, because they saw Pepsi and Pepsi failed, but again, like you said, the Nike ad, the Gillette ad, like, the whole quote-unquote feminist products that they put out as well, it's a lot. Like, and the thing is, these companies wouldn't have cared about social justice if it wasn't profitable. They're like, see, oh, the numbers.
Well, like the new Just Do It campaign, like Colin Kaepernick ad, like they are profiting off of the outrage that comes from like anti-BLM people, and like they're burning their Nike shoes, and it's so embarrassing. But at the same time, like you know they're gonna like go back and have to buy new Nikes, and.
You already bought it.
Did you hear about? Yeah, I know. You know, like you already bought it, so you burning these shoes does not matter at all to Nike. They don't give a shit. It's like which leads us kind of into Bomber Guy's video about this, is that like these companies, they know better. Like they're learning better, and they're learning how to profit off the outrage community. And I actually think that last time I checked, like actually Pepsi's sales went up a bit after that commercial. Like, and it's just like ridiculous.
Any publicity is good publicity.
But then it was like the Sean Hannity thing with the Keurig coffee makers and people destroying their Keurig coffee machines. But like Nike did pull it off really well, and then like Bomber Guy in his video is like, by the way, they still use sweatshop labor. A lot. And it's like, you know, Colin Kaepernick's a good dude, and it's good that they were shedding light on like black athletes like LeBron James doing really, really good things and everything like that. But at the same time, like Nike does sweatshop labor. I
mean, at the end of the day, it's for a profit. And I mean, yeah, they can do all that social justice stuff, but at the end of the day, like if it wasn't seen, if putting Colin Kaepernick was seen as something negative, they wouldn't have done it at all, to be honest, because it wouldn't have been profitable.
Can I ask you something? When it comes to Colin Kaepernick, Do you think that maybe he gets, like, maybe, I shouldn't say he gets away with it, because he did not get away, like, he's been kind of, the way he's been treated by the NFL has been terrible, but, like, he's light-skinned. Do you think there's any colorism to the way he's, like, viewed, versus, like, maybe how, like, a dark-skinned black man might have been treated? Because somebody said something about that on Twitter. I don't remember who it was, but, like, it kind of stuck in my head.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, he's biracial, and so people will view, like, paler or lighter toned skin people be more empathetic towards them. Again, I can go into, like, the whole white sociopathy and how they tend to not be empathetic towards browner people. And so when, again, if you see, like, a lighter skinned person getting bashed, then I guess there could be more empathy. And then also with him being biracial as well, that card could play into, oh, he has races of two parents, but he's still getting all of this negativity and getting blackballed from the NFL. That could also play into it. Like, it's not out of the ballpark that there is some colorism within here.
Normally I wouldn't ask that, but I did see, like, some people talking about it. I don't feel like there should be any, like, stone left unturned on this, because I feel like there's so much discussion. I feel like a lot of people, like, one of the biggest problems I think we have when we talk about race in America is how we try to simplify it too much.
Yeah, it's because people don't want to talk about it because it's so complex, and because of the way our environment is to want to get everything, like, very, very fast-paced and direct. But you have to actually sit down for days and even weeks to even months to get everything down, because, again, these books created by black activists took them, months, a year to write these specific books. It's not gonna happen within, like, a day. You would have to dismantle everything to get to the bottom of, like, the specific racism, like, that this country holds, because, again, this country was built off of imperialism and racism, and so to discuss it, everybody would have to look within themselves, and, like Angie Speaks said, do shadow work and look at their own demons. But people aren't able to do that because, one, it can be, like, very, very traumatizing and scary, and two, because, again, a lot of us just don't have time anymore because of 9 to 5, having children to care about. It's a lot. So
I feel like one of the biggest, like, fuels for the right wing in a lot of ways is exhaustion. Just pure exhaustion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because every other day there is something, and having to put all your energy into everything.
And I feel like there's a lot of politicians who will tell you, like, we'll do your thinking for you. And so we actually, oh my god. I just found something. I can't believe it.
What?
So, there's this YouTuber who is definitely not a left tuber. His name is, I don't remember his last name, and no, actually I do, but I'm not going to say his full name. But you guys probably know him as YMS, aka Your Movie Sucks, and he just posted something on Twitter just a couple days ago, and it's kind of blowing my mind that he actually said that. He said that now that 2020 is actually looking serious, I would just like to remind everyone to be mindful of propaganda over the next couple of years. The internet is a powerful tool. Reddit is easy to manipulate. Fact check. Don't believe something just because it has a lot of upvotes. It is so weird to have him saying that.
You are not immune to propaganda.
Yeah, exactly.
YMS still, he hasn't moved yet? He hasn't moved left yet?
No, he has. I don't think he has.
I'm glad, I kind of dropped him, back when I was in, high school, middle school, I would follow him, I Hate Everything, and, Ralph, and, Ralph the Movie Maker. But then again, because a lot of their stuff got really, really, really stale, because how I think Lindsay Ellis says saying thing bad all the time kind of gets old.
Yes. Oh yeah, and he I'm sorry, but YMS's stuff especially has become very Cinema Cinzy, which is probably the worst insult I could probably give him. And I like a lot of the same movies he likes too. That's the weird thing. like, I often agree with his opinions. I just hate how he says them.
He kind of uses the R slur a little bit, and that's a whole other thing. But like when I moved to actual better video essayers, that
like Lindsay Ellis or
those people tend to be more left leaning, like coincidentally.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, but Renegade Cut deserves to have more success than YMS does. Renegade Cut is amazing, and, like, Leon Thomas isn't even a tenth as hasn't gotten as tenth as many followers as YMS, or especially Ralph the Movie Maker. I mean, I don't want to be a dick, but, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to be a dick, but, like, I don't care much for Ralph the Movie Maker. Like, even when I first started listening to him, and keep in mind, this was before he bashed Wonder Woman, and I was ride or die for Wonder Woman. So, like, I didn't really care, there are plenty of people who, like, movies opinions I don't agree with, and I still like listening to them. Like, I don't think Beauty and the Beast is as good as Lindsay Ellis thinks it is, but I get where she's coming from, and I like the way she expresses her opinions.
I don't want any more. No more Disney live-action movies. Bring back 2000s Radio Disney. Bring back my
Seriously,
Bring back my original Hannah Montana. Bring back Bowling for Soup. Bring back JoJo. I want to hear 1985 again. I want to hear Coming Clean. Bring back Disney Radio 2000s. Sorry.
Okay, but, like, they're remaking my favorite movie of all time, Lilo and Stitch.
Okay, my door is open to crack. It's open to crack a little bit. If they talk about...
I am angry.
If they talk about how horrible tourists are, then my door will open a little bit wider.
See, you know, there's actually, if you go on YouTube, you can find the deleted scenes where that was actually going to be in the original movie. They were going to have Lilo deal with a bunch of tourists asking her if she spoke English, and then her playing a prank on the tourists.
Yeah, I knew about that.
and they cut it, and I hate that, but it's my favorite movie of all time. I cry at least like 3 times every time I watch it.
Oh yeah, I told you this, like, because I love the whole, like, sister dynamic with, like, Nani and Lilo, because it's just like so emotional and just so sad. It's like I just love their bond in general. Just like, oh. Because
Nani was forced to become Lilo's parent, which is not something any, like, sibling should be forced to do. And Lilo says, like, I like you better as a sister than a mom, and you can tell that Nani likes herself better as a sister than a mom too.
I just don't want them to fuck up the Hawaiian roller coaster ride scene, because that water animation was so pretty. Don't mess it up.
Well, also, the other thing I hate is I'm really worried they're gonna make Nani skinny.
Boo! Boo!
Yeah, I really don't want that. Like, yeah.
Boo! Ugh. Boo! Make her curvy. She doesn't have to have abs, just make her curvy and dark skin, please do make her dark skin.
Yeah, seriously, like they have, like, I think, you know, Lilo and Stitch is one of those reasons I think Tia Carrera is really underrated.
Why, what's overrated?
Tia Carrera. She is very not overrated, underrated as an actress. Tia Carrera is underrated as an actress because she was so good as Nani in
I want my curvy, dark-skinned Hawaiian, because when I was younger, I saw her and I was like, oh, she looks like me! Even though I'm not Hawaiian. But still, it's like seeing that. It really, really helped me. It really excited me.
Yeah. Okay, so we go
off in tangents here.
Yeah, what else do we have to... We have a lot of things to say, as you guys could probably tell, and we're trying to get more of a structure going, but this is our first episode, which is why we are talking about 1,000 different things in one. But I think we have a lot to say about all this. But yeah, so basically, one of the things that has come from the Angie Speaks thing, which I think is positive, is a lot of leftist YouTubers and a lot of leftist YouTube followers are coming together to create a protocol to deal with situations like this when there are, like, cross accusations and, you know, when it's people know, and how we protect victims and keep this from, like, instead of creating more victims, because let's face it, none of the harassment Angie Speaks got helped anybody. It just created a new victim. It didn't help the person who was attacked. She was not helped by this. No one was. Yeah. So, there was no positives to come from this, and we got to learn how to handle these situations. And so I know right now, I'm not going to say too much about it because I'm not sure how much they want to be let out right now, but right now there are a bunch of Lefttuber and Lefttuber creators and followers right now who are trying to craft something that would help people deal with this sort of online hoopla and cross accusations in situations like this, which I think is vitally important, especially in cases where maybe names are not known and where you've got a hazy situation like this where when I first heard about this, I didn't even know the names of the actual people involved. That's how crazy and how outlandish it was. And when I tried to Google it or look it up, I couldn't find anything concrete. I had to go to the sources on this because there was so much misinformation out there already.
Yeah. Gwen from Gwen No Fear, her YouTube video, she discusses about the structure of LeftTube and discusses that whether LeftTube can actually be a safe place for people. And she says that hold on, let me bring it up. She states that LeftTube is not a safe space because it is not a controlled and isolated environment. She brings up the definition of safe spaces, and that definition is in a controlled and isolated environment. And she says, this is quoting from the video, "The assumption that YouTube is a controlled environment is wrong, and we can't control who engages with people. We can't control who engages with people on YouTube. Safe spaces are generally in person, and people are held immediately accountable for their conduct, which is not happening within the sphere at all. No one is being held immediately accountable. And social media does not allow people to respond in person, which is also another big issue because these issues are very, very personal. And if we were in the reality non-internet sphere, a lot of the stuff coming out we probably wouldn't know about, or probably wouldn't even be within our business or within our realm to understand what was going on. But because how social media is, we're in everybody's business. But
yeah, and everybody's business becomes everybody else's business.
Yeah. She also states that LeftTube does not have the resources in the form of having an ever-present formalized online resource, on-site therapists. Because, again, that takes a lot of energy for specific people to stay online and come to them about specific things. If we can get people like that who specialize in therapy as leftists, then that would be cool. But she also says that this is why LeftTube cannot these lines. This is why LeftTube cannot and is unable to be a safe place for rape survivors. She believes
I think
yeah.
And I think the parasocial element is very relevant to that whole discussion too. Because a lot of
more, Gwen believes that this can be very this can be very frightening for people, especially for the ones who have mental illness. Yeah, because she's saying because LeftTube isn't inherently a safe space because of how spread out everything is. Nothing is very, very controlled. It is very frightening for people who are rape survivors, especially with people with mental illness. She even came out and said she had bipolar disorder. And so...
I can speak to this personally because I'm a sexual assault survivor and I have bipolar disorder as well. I can tell you guys, for real, if you're looking to LeftTube to give you a shining way, you're not going to get it. And I think that builds into something else we've talked about in our personal conversations about how formalized LeftTube should become. Should they become more of a community the actual LeftTubers? Should they become more of a formalized community or not, if that's even possible, and how that affects the viewership overall? Yeah. I'm happy that there's a growing leftist presence on YouTube because we've had for too long that's been too long a lot of right-leaning spaces, even supposedly progressive people who are actually really socially quite backwards people who were allowed to dominate this platform that is just becoming more hugely influential every day.
Like, even RightTube doesn't have, like, a full isolated community because they infight within themselves, if you want to be honest. Like,
and a lot of them deny that they're even a community, which I can tell you from personal experience that they have started doing that, even though they used to be all about claiming that they were buddy-buddy.
Yeah, they call them...
Now, not so much.
Yeah, they call each other names and police each other. Not police each other, but call each other out all the time, like white knighting people. And it also said, Gwen from the YouTube video said she's livid that the Left 2 community has a group of people who are bad actors and who are racist and transphobic, and especially when they can get away with it. And there are people who are being performative, who are betraying the trust of comrades. And she also says that we create narratives and framings that validates our own feelings, and that we need to be suspicious of well-intentioned people who reframe the things people do. She even said, Gwen herself said to be suspicious of her because, again, she can only speak from her own reality and from the own narratives that were created for her that she sees, because we all frame things, but we all frame things in different ways, but we shouldn't allow these narratives to prevent us from seeking the truth.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be very, very uncomfortable, too. Like, it's sometimes, like, taking ownership of certain shit and, like, facing facts on things can be very difficult. Like, there can be some but even when it gets uncomfortable, we have to have our ears open and our mouths shut sometimes, and I feel like we do the opposite too often. So I think she's right about that.
Yeah, and back to, she criticizes Angie and Peter Coffin in that she believes that some of the things that they have said feed into the cultural dispositions into rape apologia, like, and they don't mean to. Like, she says that they don't mean to, but it still feeds into, like, rape apologia, and that their search to elucidate their actual point of view, they ended up saying things that don't represent what they believe. However, Gwen states that she knows that they don't defend, like, the rapist, and she believes that they are good comrades. They are good comrades making the wrong kinds of arguments. And she recommended the Ship of Theseus with how going into wording things that you don't mean can be harmful. Yeah, she mentioned the Ship of Theseus with that too. And for people who don't know, the Ship of Theseus was this ship that, like, it went on a trip, and as it was returning, it kept breaking, and parts of it kept having to be replaced until every part of it was replaced. So it's this common, like, philosophical question: is the ship that returned that was made entirely of replaced parts the same ship that left it? So that is the Ship of Theseus. Yeah, so saying that you don't have all the facts, or that you don't know about it, or that you don't have enough information to know, kind of feeds into that rape apology that she was talking about. And then she also discusses Angie's use of the word triggering, and she understands that it's because when you are bashed so much, when it comes to people in bad faith calling you a rape apologist and all this other stuff,
saying that you belong at the end of a rope,
that when a person
that you belong at the end of a rope.
Yeah, that when a person comes in good faith to you, says that, hey, what you're saying is bad, or very, very, or that triggering is not a good thing to say, you end up blowing up because you've already faced so much of that negativity. Like, and she says that, like, she knows that, yeah, you end up, again, blowing up because you face so much of the brunts of people bashing you negatively. Like, even, like,
a lot of timing needs to be, like, considered when you approach somebody who's going through that sort of shitstorm too, though.
Yeah, and like, even with that, like, it was very distasteful what she says, and she understands. Like, again, I really do hope, like, when she calms down, she's able to apologize for that, because I see her as someone who would be able to do that. But yeah, again, when you're constantly being faced with negativity, you start to not see who's coming to you in good faith or not, which is also a terrible thing when it comes to leftist YouTube in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it on her. That was it on her video.
Yeah. Yeah. There are ways to like approach these things where like we also have to remember is like a lot of people think like, oh, these people are not perfect. Like nobody's perfect, and nobody's a perfect leftist, and nobody's perfectly woke or whatever word you want to use. And it's especially when somebody is under a great deal of stress. Like let's say you've spent like your entire holidays being attacked on all sides, being called a rape apologist just because you're hesitant to disown somebody that you kind of know. Or let's say you're not even a third party to a situation, but you're an eighth party to a situation, and suddenly somebody's telling you to cast judgment on something and calling you a rape apologist and a crypto-fascist and telling you belong on the end of a rope for not judging a situation on that. Like, you're not going to be able to be clear-headed and offer the perfect response to that, and I think that's something that people really need to keep in mind when discussing this sort of thing. Especially when we're doing it through the medium of social media, because social media... especially something like Twitter, it can be incredibly reactionary for everyone, regardless of your position on the socio-political spectrum. You know what I mean?
So
I feel like that's an important thing to like keep on. Like, I can't imagine being in the situation that Angie was and the kind of pressure she had. And I've had undeserved social media crap thrown at me before, but like nothing on the level that she got. And nothing on the level that Peter Coffin got. So, like, I'm kind of, like, a little bit more, like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm a little more forgiving of them, especially given the ridiculous things that were thrown at their floor. At the same time this was happening, I know, like, Peter Coffin had been hounded about this whole situation, like, even before Christmas. And at the same time, he was being given shit for the fact that he's agender.
Oh.
And people claiming that, like, he's just lying about it to get social clout or whatever. Like, because apparently he doesn't present as female enough to be agender.
Oh.
Which is because it's just complete horseshit, by the way. Like, because apparently because he has a beard, and because he doesn't wear skinny jeans, and because he has a wife and 2 kids, that makes him a man in every single way, and that he has to feel male gender. And that's complete bullshit. And I feel like a lot of that, when you're it's really hard to, I mean, I still don't know exactly what happened in this whole situation, and I've been, like, following it very closely for the last couple of weeks, and I feel like when you're in the midst of a complete social media shitstorm like they have been, it's kind of hard to properly respond to anything, especially when everything you're going to say is going to be considered wrong in some way by somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially because, again, social media is such an open sphere, which is why, like, the protocol is gonna be kind of difficult to create such a vast protocol because of how open, like, the leftist space is, especially when it comes to LeftTube. And again, because of how Gwen discussed that it's not really a safe space for people, because your views on how you view the world does not automatically mean that you are a good person.
Mm-hmm. You know, Harvey Weinstein was not a Republican. You know?
Yeah, And again, like, LeftTube is not a safe space. Like, it's unfortunate that it's not. But again, because everything is so open.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can tell you, like, LeftTube, like, there is social capital to be gleaned from there, like, and I can tell you that as somebody who recently gained some social capital in LeftTube. Like, we're probably gonna gain some social capital in LeftTube if this works out, you know? Like, but we can tell you, like, this does exist, and people need to, like, realize that does not make anybody experts on anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like, we're just people who are saying something loudly enough that some people are hearing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, like...
So, yeah, you're not gonna get a perfectly... like, I'm not a therapist. You're not gonna get a perfectly calm, rational person. Like, a perfect, espouser of woke or proper leftist beliefs, Marxist beliefs, whatever you want to call it, feminist beliefs. It's just not gonna happen. And that's an important like topic, point to keep in mind. Forget about clout. Like, don't expect anybody to be perfect, and don't expect everybody to have an answer for you on a situation, especially if it's a situation they're really not that connected with. And try to think of, like, if you're really angry at somebody, try to analyze where that anger is coming from. I think is the advice I give some people who might have, like, seen this Angie Speaks situation and been like, well, why doesn't she come out and say this person's a rapist?
She didn't.
Yes! Exactly. Exactly. And I think it's, like, if you're coming at this from, like, oh, she's supposed to be better at this. It's like Sarah said we hold, unfortunately, we hold people to unfair standards, especially if they're from minority groups. And so they are judged more harshly, and they shouldn't be. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind.
Angie is not the spokeswoman for all black women. Just calling it out there right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, don't think that, like, you know, I'm a Jewish woman. I can't tell you, and I can't speak for all Jewish women, for instance. Like, for instance, I'm not very big on Israel, for instance, and I know that there's probably going to be a lot of Jewish people who would, if enough Jewish people hear this, there's going to be a few people who are going to be very angry that I just said that. But, you know, like, you got to keep that in mind. Nobody's going to be the perfect little black person, or the perfect little woman, or the perfect little feminist, or the perfect little Marxist, or the perfect Jew for you. Nobody is. Even people with, like, an audience. Stop expecting them to be.
Yeah. It also goes with, like, what you said with Sarah Z and, like, the whole parasocial relationship. And how you kind of, again, see someone as that whole embellished, perfect person that you admire, and so it hurts a lot when they do something terrible. And then you start,
or when they do something, or they mess up.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I think we are coming up, we are just over an hour right now, and I want to thank anybody who's listened to this. Thank you for listening. This is our first episode, and we're going to be exploring a few different directions for this podcast. Is there anything you want to say, Deanna, before we sign out?
Get that cash in this capitalist system. That's all I gotta say. Get that cash. Do what you gotta do. Enjoy Black History Month. Enjoy, like, the last, hold on, what date is it? Enjoy the last
6 days.
Enjoy the last 6 days of Black History Month. Hopefully something will turn around during this Black History Month.
Yeah, seriously.
If not, I demand that we change the month to June when all of this other stuff cranks up, because June is always such a fun month, and plus we get all of the cool summer songs or whatever. Yeah. So,
yeah. Alrighty then. Okay, well, we're signing off now, guys. We hope you enjoyed our first episode, even if we might have said some things that might make you uncomfortable. We're speaking from our hearts, so thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.